Hi everybody, how are you? This is Santiago Valencia, your realtor out here in Santa Clarita Valley, California, just north of Los Angeles. I'm going ahead and making a video blog for you guys today because I wanted to go ahead and show and demonstrate how I go about getting our values, our statistics for the real estate market out here in Santa Clarita. And this of course can be used for any market depending on what kind of MLS you use. But I wanted to go into detail on how I go about in using my information to be informed and up to date on my market here for my clientele. Okay, so thank you very much for being here and watching. The first step I'm going to go ahead and do and show you a graph on how I go ahead and organize my information. Information like how many new listings have come out, how many have gone into pending or expired, and how many, what the average listing price is, etc., etc., and we'll go into that. And the second step is I'm actually going to go into my MLS and demonstrate to you exactly how I go ahead and do this on a daily basis, so I'm always up to date for my market information. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And again, if you have any comments, go ahead and leave them below. Go ahead and email me, or even better yet, give me a call and I'll be happy to walk you through things. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get into the information we're going to go ahead and get from our MLS for our area. I've created a little bit of graph here that I've been using, and this is pretty thorough as far as the information that we need for our area when it comes to our real estate stats and information. This is something that we can build on, change depending on how we want to look at the market, what kind of information we want to get, but for right now this is what we're going to use. In my market, like I mentioned before, I'm in Santa Clarita Valley, just north of Los Angeles, and I've selected a geographical area of pretty much our whole valley. And I want to know exactly on a daily basis how we're doing. So the first thing I want to know are our new listings. How many new listings have come up on the market within the last 24 hours or today? The next thing I'm going to want to know is how many have sold within the last 24 hours, and that number is going to go here. Next thing, our price change. Sometimes our properties go up in price, go down in price. How many of those since the original listing have gone up or down in price change? Okay. Next thing I want to know is back on market. How many of my listings were taken off the market? Maybe they had to do a repair or something like that, and they've put them back on market. So that number is going to be right here for back on market. Backup offer. How many of my listings that were once active have now been kind of sold, but they're still accepting backup offers, and that number is going to go here. Next, I want to know how many have expired. How many of my listings have expired? This is really, really important for those agents who are actually going after expireds, communicate with them, give them a call, and that number is going to go here. Usually I only have 1 or 2, sometimes 0, but sometimes, especially towards the end of the month, the expired is going to go up to maybe 10, 20 expired sometimes too, and it's a field day for those agents who are going after expireds, and so this is a really important number here. Pending. How many of my active sales have actually gone into escrow? They're no longer accepting backup offers, but now they're technically off the market because they're in escrow. So that's what number is going to go here in the pending. Okay, now here's my next main category. How many of my whole valley, my whole geographical area, are for total and sale? In Santa Clarita Valley, as of today is the beginning of March 2015, and right now I have approximately about 517 active listings for sale right now as we speak. So that number is going to go here. Now we're going to want to go ahead and break that down. I like to break it down, and the way that my MLS breaks it down are in the following categories. The first category is how many of those active sales, how many of those 517 for example, are standard sales. That number is going to go here. How many of those are foreclosures? How many of those are NODs or notice of default? Next, I'm going to find out how many of those are REOs, bank owned or real estate owned. Next, how many of those are HUD? How many of those are short sales? How many of those are probate sales? And then finally, how many of those are auction sales? So that's basically how my total thing, my MLS breaks it down in category for total, sale, standard, foreclosure, NOD, etc., all the way down to auction. Okay, so next thing I want to know is expired. Now, I like to look at my information in a year. Some people will look at it within the last 90 days, 6 months, etc. And I do that as well. But in this particular next one here, I really like to find out in this year, calendar year, how many have expired. So right now we're in 2015. So I want to know since January 1st all the way to today, how many expireds have we had? And currently right now we have about 84 expireds as of today in Santa Clarita. Next, I want to find out how many expireds have I had within the last 30 days. So as I'll show you in the next step, on my MLS, I'll go ahead and plug in 0-30, and that'll show me how many expireds have happened within the last 30 days. It's really good to be informed on this. All right, next, average days MKT, which means average days on market. I go ahead and abbreviate a lot of these categories here for space. So average days on market. Right now there's kind of two ways to look at it. Average days on market, A, how long did it take to get into escrow? And B, how long did it take for it to actually sell? So it's almost like this one's going to have two numbers, right? And then right now in Santa Clarita, we're averaging about 62 to 73 days between it going in pending or actually closing, okay? Next, we're going to go on ahead and look at the average list price. Now, if I go ahead back up here to total sale, remember, we have about 517 for total sale. Well, if I take that 517, put them all together, average out the sale price, that's going to give me the average list price. And right now we're looking at about $598,000 out here in Santa Clarita. That's our average list price for active sales. Next, I want to know how many have sold. Okay, now this is a little bit different because, again, I like to look at it from the year. So I'm taking this, and you can customize this the way you want, but the way I'm doing it, I want to know from the beginning of this year, January 1st, all the way to today, what is the average sold price that things have gone for. Out here in Santa Clarita, 444,000 are things that have properties that have actually closed successfully through escrow and are all done, okay? Now, I want to get a little bit deeper because I want to have a better understanding of what's currently going on, not just the whole year. So I will go ahead and also find out what is the average sold price in the last 90 days. So again, take the last 90 days worth of sales, average them out together, and then that'll give me about $451,000 in the last 90 days of average. And then the last one here that I go ahead and do is total sold for the year. So since January 1st, how many have sold in my area? And right now it's looking at about 418. So this is going to give us an explanation of the graph that I go ahead and use. You can customize it the way you want to. I think this is pretty thorough for now. And let's go ahead into the next step, and I'll show you exactly how to do it in my MLS. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the live demonstration on how I go ahead and go get my market stats for my area here on a daily basis. I've gone ahead and already logged in on the left-hand side here onto my MLS here in Southern California. You'll see that in my homepage, I already have a market watch that you can see here in the middle. And then I have some favorite searches of some, pre-listed information that I've already set up for myself. So we're going to be going back between these two to show you exactly how I go ahead and get my market stats on a daily basis. So on the right-hand side over here, we're going to see the graph that I introduced you to just a minute or two ago. And the first thing I'm going to want to know is my new listings. Now, if I go over here to the left side on the market watch, I'm going to see that these numbers have kind of already been happening for me, okay? There's a setting over here in the 24, today, and 3 and 7 days that I can go ahead and select. So I normally like to leave it on the 24 hours because I do this on a regular basis pretty much as soon as I come into work. So I'm going to leave that on the 24 here, okay? So let's go ahead and just start filling this in. This will be pretty easy. New listings, I have 17. Right here under Market Watch, you'll see 17. So let's go ahead and plug 17. Just sold is at the bottom of the market watch here, and we have 11. Price change. Price change right here under new listing, 5. Back on market, we have 8. Backup offer, I see we have 11. Expired, I have 0. And pending, I actually have 5 right now. Okay, so a third of our information has already been filled in, pretty easy. And let's go ahead and find out what we have actively right now. On my favorite searches over here, I already have a setting that says all active report, SCVs, Santa Clarita Valley, all active. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And a list is going to go ahead and come up for me with all the active sales that we actually have right now in Santa Clarita Valley. And unfortunately, our internet's running a little slow apparently. Let's go ahead and try that again. Here we go. Okay, so we have our SCV all active here. As you can see here at the top left-hand corner, we have about 520 that are currently active for sale. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in, 520, okay? Now, because I know my way around my MLS and I try to get this information as quickly as possible, it normally takes me about 5, maybe 7 minutes every morning for me to get my stats, okay? I'm going to go ahead and select all of my 520 here, and I'm going to go down to my stats here at the bottom and click on tabular. This is going to give me kind of an average of everything that's going on, okay? So I'm going to jump ahead on our graph here. Here we are. ADOM, average days on market is what that is. On average, if I go ahead and select this section here, we're going to see that average days on market are 61. So going to our graph over here, I'm going to plug in average days on market 61 before they went into escrow. Okay, there's another number that we're going to put in that average days on market, and we'll get to that later on. But right now, our average list price right now of these 520 properties, on average, you're looking at about $599,131. I just go ahead and round it off to the thousands. So on our graph here, average list price, I'm going to go ahead and put 599K for 1,000. Okay. All right. So there we are, filling things in together little by little. I'm going to go ahead and go back one page on my MLS here. And again, for some reason, my internet's working a little slow. Going back to our active listing. Here we go. Selecting them all and going to criteria. Now, the criteria is where I'm going to go ahead and find out how many of my total sales are standards, foreclosures, NODs, etc., etc. Okay? So if you see over here in the middle on the left-hand side, we have sale type. Okay? I'm going to go ahead, since the status has already been selected as active, I'm going to go ahead and down here select now sale type standard. Okay, so out of those 520 homes that are now for sale, 457 of them, you'll see down here at the bottom, are standard sales. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And then we just go down the list. Next, foreclosures. We have 6. Next, notice of default or NODs. 18 is what we have. And we just keep going down the list until we pretty much fill our graph. Real estate owned or REOs, we have 13 right now. If I keep going down, next is going to be HUD owned. Right now we have 0. Next, short pay or short sales, we have 41. Next, probate. Right now we have only 2 in probate. And then the last one on this category we're going to know is the auction. How many of all of our active 520 homes are for auction? And right now we actually have 10. Okay, great. So that's basically in the order that I do it in to make it faster for myself, okay? Next thing I want to know is the year expired. Now I'm going to unselect the auction here because I don't need any of this anymore. But instead of selecting active, I'm going to go ahead and now select expired. In my status date over here, I'm going to go ahead and I want to know how many of the year, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in 1/1/15 plus, which says January 1st, 2015 and onward, okay? And again, I've just selected expired. So if I go to the bottom of my screen here, I'm seeing that 84 properties have expired since the beginning of the year, okay? Now let's find out how many have expired within the last 30 days. I'm going to go to my status date once again, erase that, and put 0-30 or 30. And now it's going to tell me that within the last 30 days, we have had actually 43 homes expired. So let's go ahead and plug that in. Great. Okay. Now, expired is done. Moving on to our closed sale. We want to find out how many have closed within the last year, or actually since the beginning of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this number back in, 1/1/15 plus. Okay. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. 418, which tells me that 418 properties have successfully closed through escrow since the beginning of this year. So I'm going to go ahead to my graph here and plug in 418. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and go to criteria here. Actually, we're going to go to results, excuse me, because I want to see all of these sales. Here they are. Okay. And let me make sure that this is right. Okay, great. And we're going to select them all. These are all closed sales. I'm going to go down to my stats, tabular, and this is telling me my sales dates. So going back to the average days on market, we now have the number 73. That means on average, these took 73 days to close and go through escrow. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 73 here on the right-hand side. On average days on market, it's going between 61 and 73 days between going into escrow and actually closing through escrow. Those are the two numbers that I have. Now, on average selling price, I now have $445,363. Going back to our graph here, on average sold price since the beginning of the year, $445K for 1,000. Okay. Now I'm going to go back. All we need now is the average sold price within the last 90 days. I have all of my properties selected. I'm going to go to criteria. And instead of selecting my status date since the beginning of the year, I'm going to go ahead and do 0-90 to show me the last 90 days. I want my results. Select all of my properties and then go to stats, tabular. And now if I look at the selling price on average, this is the number I'm looking at. Selling price. In the last 90 days, my properties have averaged $452,413. So last number on my graph here, 452K for 1,000, and there we are. Okay, so as you can see here, these are our numbers that we are looking at. So on a daily basis, this is how I find out how my market's doing on a regular basis. It keeps me informed on how many new listings, average sale price, etc. And it's extremely important as a really good real estate agent to be informed, so when you're in front of your clientele, you're able to intelligently tell them exactly what's going on. So there we go. So that's a great demonstration on how I go about getting my information for my market on a daily basis. And it's really great to be informed, because whenever you're going down and meeting with a prospective buyer or prospective seller, it's good to have this information in your head so you can pretty much knock off and tell them, yeah, actually right now we have 517 homes for sale, and the average list price after average selling prices, etc., etc. So it's really good to do that and to be up to date as a really informed real estate agent. It's great. So go ahead and leave me any comments again, and it was great doing this video for you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and give me an email at valenciadreamhomes@yahoo.com, and you can also reach me directly by phone here in Santa Clarita at 310-733-7392. Okay, it's been a pleasure, and until next time, thank you very much. Have a great day.